Demonyms, Demonyms. You probably know what they are. You maybe just didn't know there's a word for it. The word is demonyms. They have always fascinated me, so today, let's learn about them. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 17, Chapter 1.
Demonyms.
Okay, got it. Yes, geez, AI. Demonyms. Sounds like one of those grammatical terms you learned in school and then forgot. Synonyms, antonyms, demonyms. Not really. Demonym sounds like it could be Demi Moore's full first name. Demonym Moore. It's not. Demi's first name has always been just Demi. Yeah, Demi's mother named her Demi. I don't know. The father abandoned the marriage after 2 months while the mother was still pregnant with Demi. He was in the Air Force. It's Roswell, New Mexico. It's all very suspicious. Anyway, we all have a demonym. Most of us have at least 3 or 4. So, a demonym is the term used to identify the general population of a people in relationship to a particular place. A Canadian, a New Yorker, a Texan. These are demonyms. That's why we all have several, based on our city or town, our province or state, our country, our ethnicity, sometimes even religion. A Winnipegger is also a Manitoban, who could be a Ukrainian Canadian Presbyterian, whose heritage could be Russian or European. Did you know we have a word for that? It's demonym. Demo comes from the Greek demos, meaning a people or a society. The descriptive term demonym, thought to be first used in 1893. That's a recent history, at least by Greek standards. And on another grammatical note, a demonym can be both a noun and an adjective. A noun, he's a Brit. Adjective, English muffin. You take the name of your place, add a suffix, and that's what you are. One day I just began to wonder, how is this all decided? Why is someone a Torontonian and another is a Vancouverite? An onion, an ite, an ease, an ish. There's so many suffixes. What's the rule? It's the English language, after all. It's full of rules. There has to be a rule. I don't know, what is it? Does it depend if the place ends in a vowel sound? Is it different for a nation versus a city? Is it historical or geographic? So here's another amazing thing about demonyms. There is no rule. There's no system, unless you call willy-nilly a system. I think it's just whatever sounds best. That was a little disappointing to learn. I thought maybe there'd be this complicated method based on grammar and region and tradition. Maybe there was a Department of Demonyms at the United Nations and they just doled them out. Nah, not really. It's largely arbitrary. I mean, here and there is some basis. For example, Israeli, someone from Israel, well, adding I is generally how you create a demonym in Hebrew. It's similar in some of the ancient Arabic languages. Irani, Iraqi, Qatari, Bahraini, Omani, Kuwaiti. A Saudi is from Saudi Arabia. Used to be known as Arabians. Now, Saudi is the acceptable demonym. But again, proving that there is no rule. If adding an I was the Middle Eastern rule, then the region wouldn't also be populated by Jordanians, Lebanese, Syrians, Egyptians, and others. I also initially thought there might be a rule for Eastern Asian nations. Ease, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Taiwanese. Oh no, because wait a minute, in that part of the world you can also be Korean, Cambodian, Malaysian, or from the Philippines, which makes you Filipino. That's not even a suffix, really. It's an entirely different spelling. Philippines, PH, Filipino with an F. What is that about? People from Burma were Burmese, except now the country is called Myanmar. So they're Myanmarese, even though I thought Myanmarin would be a lot better. A person from Laos is either Laotian or Lao. So no suffix, they actually drop a letter. Like Thailand, you're Thai. Used to be Siamese. It is thought that the "-ese" suffix, used often in the area, comes from the influence of the French and the Portuguese languages. Those countries colonized much of the area years ago. Maybe. The "-ese" suffix also doesn't have a plural. 2 Canadians, 3 Americans, 5 Australians, but never several Chineses. Speaking of Australians, their neighbors are New Zealanders, Aussies and Kiwis, which is part of a whole demonym nickname category. Aussies, Kiwis, Canucks, Yankees, Brits, Ruskies, and that's just the least offensive ones. Europe is a real demonym stew, a goulash, a paella, a melange. You start with the Nordic countries, for example. Nordic itself is a demonym. You can be Swedish, Danish, or Finnish, also known as a Swede, a Dane, a Finn. So, Norway? Norway's not playing that game. You're Norwegian. What? Why aren't you just Norwish? This brings up all the ish peoples. You know, ish is also a suffix that means partly, kind of. Are you tall? I'm tall-ish. Is that green? It's greenish. It's amateurish. To me, the ish makes you sound like you're partly from that country. Are you a Swede? Well, I'm Swedish. But yet you have your Swedish, your Danish, your Finnish, your Irish, your British, your English, your Scottish, your Spanish, your Polish, your Jewish, and your Turkish. Europe is all over the map. Well, you know what I mean. All over the map when it comes to demonyms. Portuguese, Belgian, Hungarian, Austrian, Bosnian, Herzegovinian. Germany is one of those countries that just drops a letter. From Germany, well, you're a German, not a Germanian, which is, by the way, a very lovely flower. What do you call someone from Luxembourg? Why, of course, it's a Luxemburger, which sounds like the deluxe version of someone from Hamburg, as you might have guessed, is a hamburger. Can you imagine a guy from Hamburg who shows off a lot while playing sports? Why, that hamburger is a real hot dog. Sorry. The Netherlands are a strange case. You think they'd be Netherlanders. Maybe they are. Maybe even Hollanders. They're not. They're the Dutch. I put them in this demonym category where the people use an entire other word. From Netherlands, you're Dutch. Greece, you're Greek. Wales, Welsh. Switzerland, you're Swiss. France, you're French. The French are people from France. Whereas Francophones are people who predominantly speak French, but live potentially anywhere else. Some linguists will claim that there is an air of racism in demonyms. I kind of see that, not as much in North America, a continent developed by immigrants. In Canada, we have little or no problem calling someone both a Canadian and an Italian, a Jamaican, a Pakistani, whatever. Same thing in the United States. Well, depending on who's president. Europe, though, not as much, right? If you're Sudanese and you're born in France, well, you're a citizen of France, but you're not French. A Palestinian in Sweden could be a legal Swedish citizen, but not a Swede. Spaniard is one of my favorite demonyms. I think you have to have a long birth heritage to be a real Spaniard. They hang on to those designations pretty dearly. Well, it's the old country. Old traditions die hard. South America is pretty consistent, demonym-wise. Brazilian, Bolivian, Chilean, Ecuadorian, Venezuelan, etc. The Peruvians, though, had to add a V, Peruvian. Guess it just sounded better. Although if you didn't know better, and someone told you they were Peruvian, you might assume that they were from Peruvia. So those are most of the countries and their demonyms. Some are a little odder than others. There's also the Principality of Monaco. They are not Monacans, Monachites, or even Monaconians. They're Monegasques. Yeah, Monegasques. It's based on an old language of the region. What about Trinidad and Tobago?
He's from Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Yeah, he's Trinidadian and Tobagan.
You were close. You're actually Trinidadian and Tobagonian. People from Barbados are Bahan. B-A-J-A-N, Bajan. Cretin, C-R-E-T-I-N, used to be a name for a despicable or vulgar person, likely from the Old French, a regional derivative of chrétien, meaning Christian. And that's right, chrétien is Old French for Christian. But we don't say Cretan anymore because it sounds like Cretan, C-R-E-T-A-N, which is a person from the island of Crete. If you're from nearby Cyprus, you're a Cypriot. And if you're super proud of that, that makes you a Cypriot patriot. Speaking of the French, the Acadians were the French settlers of eastern Canada, what is now known as Atlantic Canada. As they migrated to the south, to Louisiana, the local language there slowly turned Acadian into Acadian. Cajuns. Cajun is a demonym. Cajun, along with Creole, are part of the population of Louisianians. If you're from the Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, you're an Ivorian. Burkina Faso, you're the Burkinabe. A lot of the more interesting demonyms are not from countries, but cities. For example, if you're sitting around the house in Albuquerque, New Mexico, watching the Better Call Saul TV ads, yeah, sure, you're an Albuquerquean, but locally they call themselves Burkinos if you're male, and Burkinas if you're female. If you identify otherwise, I guess you have to stick with Albuquerquean. Which reminds me, Latin America. Why Latin America? Well, it describes a group of countries where the Romance languages are predominantly spoken. French, Portuguese, Spanish. Those languages derived from Latin. Thus the somewhat confusing term for Latin America. And the demonyms are Latinos and Latinas. Back to cities. Vladimir Putin was born in St. Petersburg, making him a Petropolitani, at least initially, but now he's an elected president, spends a lot of his time in Moscow, so he's mainly a Muscovite. The UK has several interesting city demonyms, at least to me. From Liverpool, you're a Liverpudlian. The Beatles were Liverpudlians. Imagine if that's what they called their band. Meet the Liverpudlians. Most of us call it the White Album, but the real title is the Liverpudlians. One of the most famous rock albums is The Who, live at Leeds, city of Leeds. You know who attended that concert? The people of Leeds, the Leodensons. Are you from Oxford? I as well. Always nice to bump into a fellow Oxonian. What do you call the people of Glasgow? Well, Glaswegians, of course. My favorite from over there, though, is Manchester, a steel town, home of the prestige Manchester United Football Club. People from Manchester? Mancunians. Bet you didn't see that coming. Mancunium was what the Romans called Manchester when they ran the show. So residents still call themselves Mancunians. Or if you've lived there a while, you just call yourself Manx. That's M-A-N-C-S. Manx, M-A-N-X, is a demonym for people from the Isle of Man. In France, if you live in the community of Saint-Jean-le-Blanc, you're an Elba Johansian. Elba Johansian. Of course you are. Moi aussi. In Canada, we have a good one. Someone from Halifax is a Haligonian. Hey, if you go to the Government of Canada website and search demonyms in Canada, they have a pretty good list. It's not every city and town in Canada, but still pretty good. Oh, and Canadian runner-up to Haligonian, the people of Kamloops, British Columbia. They are Kamloopsians. Isn't that great? Oopsians. They should just call themselves the Oops people. Hey, Kamloops, I love you. You're Kamloopsians. It must be tough to have a town demonym if you have the word city in your name, like Idaho City or Quebec City. The demonyms there are Idahoan and Quebecois, but those are also terms for the entire region. So a better demonym would be Idaho Cityan or a Quebec Cityan. Those are proper demonyms, but rarely used. And because it's been in the news a lot lately, hey, what do you call a citizen of Vatican City? A Catholic. So those are some of my favorite demonyms in the English language. It should be noted that not all languages have demonyms. You know, a term for a specific group of people, based on a region or a language, etc. Some languages just borrow demonyms from English. We also have demonyms for people based on their lifestyle or belief system. Bolsheviks, Bohemians, Gypsies, Luddites. Can you imagine a person who is a Bolshevik, Bohemian, Gypsy, Luddite? That would be an interesting roommate for sure. We even have demonyms for people who don't really exist. Martians, Cleons, the Cardassians, not to be confused with the Kardashians, who apparently do exist. Lilliputians, Utopians, Vulcans, the Kanda, the Narnians, Atlanteans, which is what you call someone from the fictional land of Atlantis, but also from the somewhat real city of Atlanta. Different spellings, but both are Atlanteans. Now that you know about demonyms, I'm sure you'll be looking some of them up. Hope I haven't missed any of your faves. As you just heard, some have roots in language and local history, but for the most part, there are no rules in coming up with one. They just made it up as they went along, as need be. Strange, huh? Like I said, I think it's just whatever sounded best. Calgarian just sounded better than Calgaronian. Minnesotan better than a Minnesite. Portuguese is better than Portugali. Of course, if it was Portugali, we'd probably be used to it by now, and Portuguese would sound funny to us. For the record, I'm Ukrainian, Canadian, former Saskatchewanian, both a Prince Albertan and a Saskatoonian. I've been a Manitoban, a Winnipegger, currently an Ontarian, spent some of my career as a Niagaran and a St. Cathariner, currently a Torontonian, and just down the highway I have friends who live in Brampton. They are Bramptonites, and if you remember your comic books, Bramptonite is what zapped the strength from Superman. But I guess for regular folks, they seem to like it there. All of these different designations for people. It's funny that we never came up with a system for how we named them. But we did manage to come up with a word for it. Demonym.
Demonyms.
In the last few minutes, I've really given you a lot here. I think my favorites, though, are still Glaswegian, Haligonian, and Mancunian. Those are the three that I always work into a conversation. I always pull them out to, stump people at parties. You can see, of course, why I'm so popular and, get invited out a lot. I also get a huge kick out of plain words that sound like they're demonyms, but they're not. Words of just things that make you sound like you're from there. Are you Canadian? Oh, you bet. What about the folks? Oh, they're accordion. My father-in-law is a contagion. His wife is a gherkin. My wife is half standoffish and half Lucite. I live next door to a Voltairean. I learned a lot about that community, along with the Tylenols and the cucumbers. It's just all a lovely multicultural world, isn't it?
What is Holland? What do you mean, what is it? It's a country right next to Belgium.
No, that's the Netherlands.
Holland is the Netherlands.
Then who are the Dutch?
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.